So the Atypical Season 3 trailer just came out. Let's go over it. Hey guys, welcome back to the TheAspieWorld. Dan here, obviously. If you're new to my channel and you don't know who I am, my name is Dan. I have Asperger's syndrome, ADHD, OCD and dyslexia. I make weekly videos on autism and mental health and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to learn more, consider subscribing to see more videos like this one. Okay, so Atypical Season 3 is coming out on Netflix. Now, if you've never heard of Atypical, it's a show about a guy who's in high school, who is on the spectrum, and it's kind of like the goings-on of his life, really. There's no real kind of gist to the story of what's going on. He's just like living his life. The interesting thing about the character, Sam, is that he displays those classic traits of somebody with Asperger's syndrome, basically autism spectrum disorder, that's what it's called. But I actually had the opportunity to work with Netflix on season 1 of Atypical, where they reached out and said, could I review it and see if I had any pointers for the next season, for season 2, because I knew there was a season 2 coming out. So I said yeah, and then I had like early access to the stuff, and then we did some consultation. It was really, really good, really, really fun. And I really enjoyed season 1. A lot's happened there. Sam got a girlfriend. He got into some mischief. Just typical stuff that's always going to happen in like typical kind of comedies or drama shows or whatever. Now, they came back out with season 2. Now, before they did season 2, obviously I gave them my feedback on season 1. One of the things that we knew about Sam was that the main character, Sam, actually had kind of like a whole bucket of all of the traits. He basically had, it was like, there's an autism trait around, you've got it. And that was basically him. He had every single trait. So I said, that's not realistic that somebody would have all of them, or maybe somebody would have all of them, but it'd be, very few and far between. It's not like an even representation of the community. So yeah, they kind of dialed back on some of the kind of things, the traits that, he was involved with in the first season, and then it kind of worked really well. And then in season 2, we saw him kind of like, progress, and he had this ongoing like issue where he had a girlfriend in the first season, the second season he didn't have a girlfriend, and it was really interesting because it gave the average person who knows nothing about autism the access to look into the lifestyles, the life types, ups and downs, parents, friends, siblings, the whole shebang, even tying down a job, going to school, all that kind of stuff. It was amazing. And I think they did a really good job at it, especially in season 2. Season 1 was great as well. I'm just saying they're really good. So season 3 is coming out. I'm not entirely sure when season 3 is coming out. Let me just check, see if it says a date in here. So season 3 is actually coming out on November the 1st on Netflix. It's a Netflix show, actually, so you can't get it on anything else. Now, when I was, coming across this show, I found it just amazing. And one of the things I found amazing about it was the fact that Atypical it's nice to see a show about autism that doesn't directly mock it or give it kind of some unlicensed credibility. Like The Big Bang Theory with Sheldon Cooper, they're always kind of taking the mick out of him, and then there's like another show, Abed from Community, they kind of like, it's all a bit jokey, there's no like real serious part of the condition, and they just kind of like smooth over the autism part. So whereas Atypical really goes in there and talks about autism, talks about like autism walks, the difficulties the kids having on the spectrum. Some more of the actors now in there on the spectrum, so they're showing like more diversity within the groups and stuff. And he goes to peer groups in the second season. It's all really, really good. So with this third season, I'm glad they're doing it, because one of the things that I was worried about was that they were going to cancel it, and then again we just have to fight for more shows that would actually show more about autism again and again, and just really try and find that niche, I guess, for people to see it. But it actually worked in our favor. They've done a season 3. Now, season 3, the trailer was very, very interesting. In contrast to season 1. With the season 1 trailer, they relied heavily on the fact that this is about autism. It's about a guy who is on the spectrum. There was all ins and outs, and you saw some of the traits and stuff, and all that kind of stuff, and it made you really think. You knew it was about. You're like, oh wow, about autism. It's going to take some of my tea, because if I don't drink the tea, it's going to go cold. Oh, it's a good blend. See, green tea is my thing, guys. Green tea is just so good. I love it. Okay, moving on. The heavy autism influence let the viewer realize that the show is basically about autism, and you didn't know what to expect from it, because you go, okay, there's a show about autism, but what's that going to consist of? Because, there's only so much you can say with it being a TV show, like how's it going to last 9 episodes and all this kind of stuff. So, in the season 3 trailer, it's really, really good how they've done it. It kind of shows the more kind of growing up, going to college, going to want to be in like dorm rooms in college. Sam is kind of going to college now. He's leaving high school and he's becoming more independent, and that he's going to have to rely on other things, like can't rely on his mum or his best friend back at home and those kind of things. And it looks really, really interesting. But again, you don't know that he's on the spectrum unless you already know and you've seen season 1 and 2. So that was very, very interesting. They don't just show any of it, like the traits or any kind of autism mishaps, if you will. But one of the most fascinating things is that he does mention the spectrum in there. He's sitting in on like a board of different kids, and they're about to take an exam or something. He says 4 out of 5 people on the spectrum don't graduate from college, which is amazing because that's a ridiculous like low number, and it's horrible to think about, but it's good that they're addressing it. This is what this show does. I feel like it addresses the politics of autism without diving too far into it. A lot of people kind of say, oh, well, here we go, white male, teenage, typical autism image, it's not a fair representation. But then again, they've chosen to talk about a young boy in this one, or a young man in this one, whereas in Sesame Street there's a young girl, so it just depends on the creators. I don't think there's anything sinister there, and I think we have to remember that as well. And another thing, I see quite a lot of negative slack and talk about things like Atypical on the internet, people saying like, oh, it's rubbish because it doesn't really represent autism fairly and blah, blah, blah. But it's the best we've got at the moment. Okay, maybe it doesn't do everything that you want it to do. Maybe it doesn't have like the specific details and the academia level of research that you kind of want for something, but you can't always have that, especially not with entertainment. And at the end of the day, we're wanting more people to learn more about it, because this is what Atypical does. It compels people to go and then open up a search window and look for autism and how does autism affect kids in school, because this season 3 is showing that transition of like leaving school. Parents have had like divorce issues or kind of separation issues. So how's he dealing with that at home? And his sister's got emotional and relationship issues going on and stuff. How is he going to relate to that, and how is he going to show that camaraderie between him and his friends and things like that? And I find that fascinating because people want to know how would a person with an autism spectrum condition kind of relate to that. But that is the only time, like I was saying about the graduating college, is the only time he mentions people on the spectrum. But he doesn't say myself. He doesn't say like, hey, I'm on the spectrum, and people on the spectrum, have like a really low number of passing out of college. It's really interesting because he's kind of not talking about the autism. He's drawing more into the lifestyle and the click of life, if you like. It's quite interesting, but it does show some of his quirks. Like there's a scene where he's opening and closing a door, and it's got a squeak, and it annoys it. And he says to the roommate, "Oh, does the door always squeak?" And he says, "Well, I don't really open it 35 times like you did." And it's really interesting because Sam's going around and finding the things that are triggering him emotionally and sensory wise, but you don't really know that. You don't know that part of autism because you just expect it that it's just Sam and that's how he is. If you've never seen the season 1 and season 2. So in all, I think that season 3 looks really good. It's basically, it's the continuation of that life flow, So you saw Sam when he was having difficulties in high school, and then he gets a therapist and he's working on it. And then you show all the trials and tribulations in high school in season 2, and like the ups and downs of having a girlfriend, having friends, going to prom and all this kind of stuff. So now they're transitioning into like the college life. How is he going to deal with that? How's he going to put those things in situations? And I think it's great. I think it's great that they've done that with college, because you have young people watching this show and being influenced, and maybe there's somebody on the spectrum that really looks up to this show, to being their source of kind of like feeling connected to something and feeling a little, less kind of ostracized from situations and things like that. And I feel personally that that's a great thing. I mean, who would argue with that? But at the end of the day, that's my personal opinion on the Atypical and the Atypical season 3 trailer. I think it's going to be amazing. November the 1st, it's coming out, and I'm very, very excited about it because, like, it's, again, I enjoyed the season. It's not just because, I worked with Netflix, that's nothing to do with it. I was being completely honest. I'm always completely honest. If I found it rubbish, I'd tell you it was rubbish, but I actually really enjoy it. If you don't know what it is, I highly recommend you go and check it out right now on Netflix. I'll try and link it below if I can. I don't know if I can link Netflix shows. I've never tried that before, but Let me know in the comment section below, guys. Have you watched Atypical? Do you like Atypical? Did you enjoy it? Did you watch season 1? Did you watch season 2? Because I'm not entirely sure, of everyone's feedback, because I've never asked for it. I know a couple of my friends have watched it and they really liked it. I know that some people were wary of the trailer for season 1 when it came out, and they weren't sure if they were going to be enjoying it or not. But I feel like, there's a place in the community for Atypical, and I think it does a really good job. The only thing that I would say about it is that the naming kind of doesn't really distinctly tell you what the show is about. Atypical is quite an ambiguous name, but it does, it works for the show, and I think, yeah, it's a great show. So with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, because that really helps me out a lot. And share this with somebody if you think this is going to help, or tag them in the comments down below. That would be super, super awesome. Okay, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.